Hello and welcome, dear viewers, to a new episode of Windows on Nile TV International. I'm Karim Gamaluddin and I'll be your host for tonight, and would like to wish our dear viewers a very happy and blessed Eid. Tonight's episode, we're going to be talking about the efforts exerted by the relentless efforts exerted by the government to boost the domestic tourism and tourism in Egypt. And this industry has been hardly hit, of course, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, but the government is exerting a lot of efforts on several fronts. And to know more about this, we're most delighted to be joined here in the studio by Mr. Emad Hamdy, a tourism expert. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us on Windows.
Pleasure.
Well, Mr. Emad, as I mentioned in my introduction, the government is exerting a lot of efforts to boost the tourism in Egypt, both domestically and internationally. But I would like to shed the light on the domestic tourism and the efforts of the government to attract more tourists in Egypt.
Unfortunately, because as you mentioned, because of the pandemic of the COVID-19, the last year, the whole tourism industry is stuck. Internally and externally, and we was expecting to have 2019 the highest season ever in the history of the Egyptian tourism, but because of the pandemic, everything stopped, and the local and the international flights as well. So after nearly 1.5 years from the pandemic, the government starting now to improving the whole thing by improving more programs and also for the prices of the domestic flights for the local Egyptians, and subsequently for the international flights as well. So recently we found some destinations who open their flights to Egypt, like Russia, like some countries in Europe, some other countries in South America. So through this, the government is improving the tourism and also for the domestic flights. So we opened some of the domestic flights from Cairo to Luxor and Aswan and to Marsa Alam, the resorts of the Red Sea in Sharm el-Sheikh and Hurghada. Also the new foundations that we have in the new Alamein, for example, in the North Coast. Some other flights should be arranged to other destinations like the national parks in Siwa and West Desert as well.
Yes. Mr. Emad, also there has been several initiatives or campaigns that were launched on the digital media or social media to boost tourism. To what extent do you believe that these initiatives are successful?
It's very successful, and the evidence was in the last Golden Parade in March, and the whole world saw the event that was tremendously successful for Egypt, especially for the marketing of the tourism. A lot of bloggers and YouTubers came already before the event just to cover the event and to show the whole world how magnificent was the show. On the other hand, we already have a lot of videos on the internet, on the social media, for those bloggers and YouTubers. They are showing their experience in Egypt, how they travel from one city to another, how safe is the country, and also for the procedures that the government follow in improving the local tourism by opening the sightseeing in different places all over Egypt, the famous monument places, and also the resorts for the leisure tourism.
Mr. Emad, also there were several museums that were inaugurated in different areas to attract tourism, like for instance the Museum of Civilization, the Cairo Airport Museum, and also a museum in Sharm el-Sheikh. How do you think the inauguration of these several museums will impact the tourism industry, both domestically and internationally as well?
Definitely it will do impact the tourism for many reasons. Many people who already come to Egypt, they don't really have long time to stay here and just to cover the whole experience in a week or 10 days. So because of their limited time, they just have a limited visits to some places. For example, in Sharm el-Sheikh or Hurghada, it's quite need a long time just to travel to Cairo to see the whole places and just to come back to the same destination. This is quite hard for some people. So by opening new museums in Sharm el-Sheikh or Hurghada in the airport, it's ideal for the transit tourism. People who have just 1 or 2 nights in Egypt, they will also share their experience in covering some of the visits, like the museum, to see some of the Egyptian artifacts, to take an idea about the Egyptian history. So in their second or their third visit, they will have much time just to cover the whole experience.
Yes, indeed. Also, in your opinion, as a tourism expert, what do you think are the most important areas or destinations that can attract tourists in Egypt and can have a positive impact on the tourism industry?
I think the national parks is a very good destination. The Eco Egypt experience, the cooperation between the Ministry of the Tourism and Antiquities and the Ministry of Environment as well, is a very good cooperation for opening the national parks for the local tourism and for the international tourism as well. So we have more than 30 national parks in Egypt, covering nearly 25 or 30% of the whole land of Egypt, in the West Desert, in the Red Sea, in Sinai, and they already opened Ras Muhammad National Park, south of Sinai, for the divers and also for the people who like to have the experience of the stargazing at the evening.
In your opinion, also, how do you think can we boost the domestic tourism in Egypt and gain the attention of the Egyptians to the area, undiscovered or unleashed areas, and that shows or conveys the beauty of our country?
We can do this on 2 different steps. The first step is improving the programs for these places, just to give the people the chance to see these places through posting some videos and some data on the internet for them, just to show them how important is this places, what the importance for the little or the new generations to know more about the national parks. And the other thing is about the prices of the local flights. So we can do both on one big step. So by this, we can improve the programs to these national parks.
Also, another important aspect is the archaeological discoveries. There has been several archaeological discoveries that were made in Saqqara and in other areas in Egypt, very important discoveries that the whole world has paid attention to. How do you think that these discoveries can help in the influx of the number of tourists to Egypt?
The last 2 years, we nearly have 6 or 7 excavations, big excavations in different places, in the necropolises of Saqqara, in Luxor, in Giza. So we found a lot of artifacts and monuments. Many mummies were uncovered, unearthed by a fully Egyptian team, and this is for the first time in the work of the Ministry of the Antiquities to have a team of Egyptians fully expert from Egypt. We don't really have any foreigners in this team, so that was quite interesting. And on the other hand, we found that the whole international media focused on these excavations that subsequently will improve the tourism to Egypt the next year. Especially that we have new events upcoming the next year for the opening of the Grand Egyptian Museum, be the biggest Egyptian museum in Egypt and one of the biggest in the whole world. It will contain more than 250,000 pieces of artifacts that will give a very good impression about the Egyptian tourism. And on the other hand, we have more excavations in Upper Egypt, south of Luxor, and also for the anniversary, the 100th anniversary of Tutankhamun also. That in 2022, that will be the event of the 100 years of the excavation of the tomb of Tutankhamun that was started in 1922. So I think next year we'll have another event will be organized for moving the Mosque of Tutankhamun and the golden sarcophagus from the museum in downtown in Tahrir to the new Grand Egyptian Museum by the plateau of the pyramids.
Mr. Emad, in your opinion, how can we exploit those two mega, let's not say big, even mega events in improving the tourism industry?
I think the government started already for using this big mega events for improving the Egyptian tourism by making very big propaganda for this event, especially for Tutankhamun, because it's the most famous pharaoh and the most famous artifacts all over the world. And you know the different expeditions of Tutankhamun in many countries. Like 50 years ago, we have an expedition in UK. We got another 2 or 3 or more in the United States, Australia, in some Asian countries. But I think because we have the highlight of moving the mosque since the excavation of the tomb of Tutankhamun and the golden sarcophagus, which is the most precious artifact of the whole group of Tutankhamun, will be moved to the new Egyptian Museum. It will be quite important for the government to issue more data and more propaganda about this event.
I'd like also to know more from you, Mr. Emad, about the factors that will attract more tourism when it comes to having a promenade, for instance, in Aswan and in other areas. How can this encourage tourism?
It will encourage tourism by having new programs. You know that since 1993 we don't really have super long cruises sailing from Cairo to Aswan. That was recently opened, and now we have many Nile cruises sailing from Luxor down, from Cairo down to Luxor and then Aswan for 12 nights. This is one of the most important programs on the River Nile for the classical tourism, and it's helped a lot in making new boosting of tourism places in Upper Egypt. Unfortunately, the sailing the last few years was just between Luxor and Aswan and on both ways. And we have other lake cruises between Luxor or between Aswan and Abu Simbel in the lake. We know that as a lake cruises. But this is for the first time we have an opening of Nile cruises that have long sailing from Cairo to Aswan for 12 nights. So people have the chance to see all the sightseeings all over the sides of the River Nile down to Aswan. This is quite interesting. More programs can be improved in the Red Sea for the program of the Holy Land. We know that the last 2 years, Vatican in Italy approved the route of the Holy Family in Egypt as a pilgrimage route for the Christians, for the Catholic all over the world. That was quite interesting for the tourism, especially for the route of the Holy Family. So we have a big part of it, starting from Sinai, down from the Delta to Cairo, then to Upper Egypt. A program that's used to sail on the River Nile will improve a lot, and it will help a lot in improving the route of the Holy Family, especially for the people who will love to come to gain this experience in Egypt.
Yes. Mr. Emad, moving on to another aspect, which is marketing the wonderful assets that Egypt possesses when it comes to culture, archaeology, leisure, the beauty of the weather, all these aspects. Do you believe that Egypt is being marketed, or the tourism sites in Egypt are being marketed properly globally?
Yes, I think the government have a great interest to market these places and these assets, especially we don't really use the as it should be. For many years, many places were ignored, like the national parks, like some of the sightseeings in the north of Egypt, in Sinai. On the other hand, we paid a great interest for the local, for the traditional places in Egypt, like the pyramids. All the respect for these places, but we need to improve more, especially for the people who already came to Egypt before. And they already saw the pyramids, they saw the museum, and you know that a big part of the tourism which comes to Egypt depends on the people who we call them the repeaters, who came like 3-4 times before. And if they decide to come back because they love the country, they love the weather, they need to see something new. By improving more programs on these national parks and these new sightseeings, those repeaters will love to come more and more.
Mr. Emad, allow me to add a new voice to this discussion about tourism, and we're most delighted to be joined over the phone by Mr. Midhat Murad, tourism expert. Thank you so much for joining us on Windows, sir. Mr. Midhat, do you have my voice? Mr. Midhat, do you have my voice? I believe we're having a technical difficulty, but we'll definitely be we'll reconnect with Mr. Midhat. And back to our discussion, Mr. Emad, do you believe that also speaking about the marketing in Egypt globally, do you think that we can build on the new archaeological discoveries, the opening of the Grand Egyptian Museum, as well as also the work that is being done? Do you think that this being highlighted in the marketing campaigns, will this be of added value?
It is a great added value for the campaigns which Egypt organized in different countries, especially for the classical tourism and also for the traditional markets in Europe and the United States. And I think we have a quite big volume that's upcoming in the next year and the year after, especially after the end of the pandemic and the vaccination of the whole people who already comes to Egypt now. So we recently found that most of them got the vaccine, so they travel safe and they have their medical insurance which covering the vaccination. So I think it will improve a lot in the tourism of Egypt the next 2 years.
The government and how it dealt with the COVID-19 crisis when it comes to tourism, how do you see or how do you evaluate the efforts exerted by the government?
Big effort and quite important to see the procedures applicated in the airports firmly by many procedures, starting from making the PCR and checking the passport, and in case we got some problems, we have places for improving the people who have a problem, a medical problem, or in the airports or in the hotels. So we followed these procedures recently, and I think it's very, very successful.
I believe we're being joined once again by Mr. Midhat Murad, tourism expert. Thank you so much for joining us, sir, on Windows, and happy Eid holidays to you.
Thank you. It's always my pleasure, and happy Eid to everyone. Thank you.
The pleasure is ours, sir. Mr. Midhat, we're talking about in this episode of Windows, we're talking about the efforts, the relentless efforts exerted by the Egyptian government to boost the domestic tourism. So how do you see this, sir?
Well, it's growing. I mean, it's like people are getting more and more, and this is the focus not only of Egypt, it's the focus of the whole world right now. Everyone is focusing on the nearby resorts or nearby places where they can actually restart travel more into a safe environment, because within the same countries, people feel more relaxed when they travel. They don't need visas. They don't need to do PCRs going through the airports or long flights to other destinations. So, and Egypt did take this approach from day one. If we recall, almost a year ago, when we started opening travel again, we started with like 25% of the capacity of the resorts area. So we opened first Sinai, Hurghada on the Red Sea, and the North Coast with a capacity of 25%. And people started gradually to grow numbers to these places. And then when everyone complied, and when the hotels as well complied to the hygiene measures, this was raised to 50%. And now, which is really great news for everyone, that it's 70%. So
yes, go ahead, sir.
So this is the first approach. Egyptians are really enjoying their country. I mean, it's like we have a diversity in what is needed, and we have also different categories of pricing, different categories of needs. I mean, it's like we have something that caters for every need of even Egyptians. So same applies for the foreigners who are starting to come back again. So it works both ways. But more into, if we want to look in depth to the local market, I mean, what's happening right now is the new roads that are being built is really, I mean, it's like reconstructed and have great. So if you are going now, for example, to Sharm el-Sheikh and you are from Cairo, you don't really have to buy a flight ticket to go there and go through airports and so on, even if you just, I mean, for budget-wise or for hygiene-wise, not to be at the same flight with a lot of people and so on. So you can actually take your car, a very nice road, 4 hours to Sharm el-Sheikh with your family. You just pay for the gas and enjoy your time over there. So there are so much things to offer here in our destination internally, and then we can think about abroad. Yes.
Mr. Medhat, also, in your opinion, how do you think the latest archaeological discoveries and for instance, the Golden Parade in the Museum of Civilization and all these important aspects, do you think that they have a positive impact on the influx of the numbers of tourists to Egypt?
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, it's like now we are in during July, and we are expecting a real comeback to the tourism sector in Egypt starting September. The Royal Mummies Parade was, I mean, it's like it was really unique. It didn't happen. We didn't have any event on that scale here in Egypt before. Everyone really enjoyed it, and it was like a huge, big start of what we can really do now with the concept of the new republic. This is what we are showcasing our destination in the right way. We were all proud about it, and believe me, I mean, it's like it did bring a lot of attention to our destination. Of course, together with new discoveries that happened in Saqqara, the Wahdi tomb, which went into the Netflix series and was actually watched by millions of people around the world. We also the new huge discovery in Luxor with the city over there in the West Bank, discovered by the Dr. Zahi Hawass and the Egyptian archaeologists. So this all made very good news and great impact about Egypt, which resulted into that our country is now on the top list of the wishes to travel during this last quarter, in the very near future, and as well as 2022. Of course, everyone is waiting for news about the GEM, the Grand Egyptian Museum, but this will not prevent people from coming even if we did not open as scheduled during the last quarter.
As you have rightly mentioned, sir, the whole world are having their fingers crossed on the inaugural event of the GEM, or the Grand Egyptian Museum. How do you think that, in your opinion, the government, or namely the Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities, can build on or exploit this mega event in boosting the number of tourists coming into or visiting the country?
Well, honestly, I have to say that they are doing a great job regarding this. Everyone is excited regarding any news which comes out from the Grand Egyptian Museum. As His Excellency Dr. Khalid Anani said many times during the last few weeks, that the GEM is ready, but we're not sure if the world is ready for the GEM yet. So we are expecting, because we really want to do an historical event in the opening, and we really want to see everyone here, celebrities, royalties, and so on. So if the pandemic situation around the world improves, we can do it this year, if not next year. My personal point of view is that we do it next year. Why next year? Because the discovery of the tomb of Tutankhamun, it was discovered in 1922, and next year will be a 100-year celebration of the discovery of the tomb. And this is where, for the first time, if we open next year, the GEM, for the first time, the whole collection of Tutankhamun will be displayed in one place, the full 5,300 pieces of Tutankhamun tomb. So yes, the impact is great, and everyone is so excited and waiting for it.
As an expert, sir, in your opinion, what do you believe are the current challenges facing this very important industry?
Well, currently, honestly, the pandemic is the only thing. However, people are getting more and more vaccinated, and as much as the vaccinations goes around the world and more people are vaccinated, they feel better regarding traveling from one continent to another. I can imagine people coming from the States, they're taking at least 2 flights or maybe one direct flight if they're coming on Egypt Air. So to have the confidence of traveling all the way when they are vaccinated, and we are seeing this and we are seeing the numbers, as soon as the vaccination rolls on, we had a huge increase in the number of bookings coming during the next quarter. So that's, I think, for us the only challenge. The government is working, I mean, it's like around the clock and very smartly regarding what's providing on the other scale internally. So all the sites are being looked at and providing the essential services for tourists which were not there before. The roads which are leading to the sites are being reconstructed again, and they are providing whatever is needed to give the right experience to the guests who are coming all the way to Egypt.
Mr. Midhat, your expectations on the numbers of tourists returning back to normalcy?
Well, honestly, we will not go back to the numbers of 2019, but in comparison to many other destinations around the world, Egypt will get a really big portion of the travelers during this last quarter. We're very hopeful that next year will come back to normal, again with the opening of the GEM and everything about it. and the impact of also in the very near future, we will be transferring the solar boat from the Pyramids area to the Grand Egyptian Museum, which is a huge event by itself and a huge news that will bring Egypt to all the media promotion outlets around the world. So that's really very good, and we're looking forward to it. So, but numbers, no one can give exact numbers, but you can say percentage, more or less, maybe we can have like 70 or 65% of the original numbers that we got during 2019.
Mr. Midhat, as we're wrapping up, I would like to listen to your closing remarks.
Well, we're very hopeful in the very near future. We did spend, and people who are working in the travel sector around the world are all looking forward to a great restart. We have always to remember that people were locked in for so many months, and they really want to go out. Maybe one of the reasons that Egypt is so popular, not only the great antiquities and highlights that we have, but also people is a nearby destination to Europe, so it's only a 4-hour flight. It's an affordable destination in comparison with so many other destinations. So after the COVID situation and after so many people lost their jobs and the economy was down in many countries, they're looking for a value for money destination, and this is where what we provide. So we're very, very hopeful that we are getting a great restart for our country.
Indeed, Mr. Midhat Murad, tourism expert, we really appreciate your insight, and thank you so much for joining us on Windows. And dear viewers, back to our guest here in the studio, Mr. Emad, if you have any comments on what Mr. Midhat said.
I do agree with what all said up with Mr. Midhat, and I wish that we have the chance to improve the whole thing the next few months, and just wishing to see the Egyptian tourism the best that we can do.
Do you believe that the strategies adopted by the tourism and the coordination between all the relevant or concerned ministries is appropriate, or do you believe that more work needs to be done?
We need to do more work. We need to do more work, especially for the people, for improving the level of the people who are working in the tourism, especially that many of them left the whole career recently. So on their upcoming season, we need to improve their work and their experience for dealing with the tourism. So we wish this.
Yes. Also about the tourism authority and the providing, as you have rightly mentioned, many have lost their jobs due to the uncertainty and the fluctuation. What do you think can be done in order to secure jobs or to provide more job opportunities for those who have lost their jobs?
The hotels now, the resorts is already initiating new jobs, and they need people to get recruited in the resorts and the hotels. But I'm talking about the training programs. This is the most important. Unfortunately, we found some people who are working in tourism, they don't really have this experience in dealing with the people, especially from different countries, and they have different cultures. They don't really have our culture, so they have a different culture. So we need to do them some training of dealing how to deal with the people from these different cultures. So we are loading this part. So we have to work in improving their experience, especially for the people who are working in the resorts and they have direct connection with the tourism, with the tourists. In the hotels, in the resorts, and the sightseeings, and the different places, any interaction with the tourists will be quite important, and we have to deal with them smooth and softly. So this is the most important.
Yes. An important event that is upcoming that I would like to focus on, the Tutankhamun's discovery 100 years. How do you think we can make a second take of the world-class event which took place as the Golden Parades in this event that can be covered by the whole world?
I think it will be great, like the Golden, exactly like the Golden Parade. The whole people saw how big was the show, how important was it. Many people around the world saw from different countries and different cultures with different languages. So we need to do it, something very similar to the Golden Parade for Tutankhamun, especially that we can show them how important was the excavations 100 years ago in 1922, and how the whole work started earlier before the First War, and how long they spent in the excavation and what exactly happened. So we need to tell the whole world and the people here in Egypt more about the story of the excavation of Tutankhamun, to show them how important was the stuff, and how important still on the Egyptian monuments, and also how important will be for the improvement of the Egyptian economy for the next year. I think if we focused on the whole thing of Tutankhamun and the transportation of the stuff from the local Egyptian museum in downtown to the new one by the pyramids plateau, it will be quite important for the whole world to know how big and how important is the stuff, and also will give them the whole issue about this monument.
Moving on to another aspect, Mr. Emad, yesterday the President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi was in an inspection tour for the roads and axes in the north coast linking Al Alamein and Wadi Natrun, and this road grid, a very important inspection tour. How do you believe that the development of the roads and networks connecting all the governorates, the Delta, the North Coast, Sharm el-Sheikh, Sinai, all this infrastructure development, how do you think that it can have an impact on the tourism industry?
It's very important because if we do consider how long is the way from Cairo to Alamein, like 3-4 years ago, and how long does it take to move with a car from Cairo and to Alexandria, and from Alexandria to Alamein, it took nearly 4 to 5 hours. But by the new roads that was built and established in the North Coast, it will not going to take half of this time. So like 2 hours from Cairo, you can go to Alamein. Alamein is very important. People just think that Alamein is a good place because it's a good sea and the Corniche. People just can do their leisure programs there, but Alamein is one of the most important historical places in the modern history. Many people don't know that there was a quite big battle called the Alamein Battle in the Second War, when the Germans attacked the North Coast and the British with the joint forces faced them in Alamein. And it is the second biggest point of battle between the joint forces and the German and the Italian forces on the other hand. So there is a place for the battlefield. And there is a big museum known as the Military Museum of Alamein. And there is many necropolises for the Commonwealth that's very famous in Alamein, and it's became a part of the new Alamein now. And there is a German grave and the Italian grave. This is a very important historical places and gives us an idea about the importance of this battlefield that was fought nearly 70 years ago. So I think the people need to know more about Alamein, not just the sea, not just the leisure programs there, and I do appreciate this, and we built already a new city and we improved the roads, we did everything there, but I think the people need to know more about the history of this place, especially that the European ambassadors, every year they do celebrate the end of the Second War in Alamein, and there is a lot of posting videos on the internet about this event every year, so we need to know more as Egyptians about these places.
Yes, indeed. I believe also there are some other hidden treasures in Egypt that we need to shed the light on both domestically and internationally.
Yes, that's true. There is a lot. Yeah.
As we're wrapping up, Mr. Emad, I would like to listen to your closing remarks and if there's a message that you'd like to send.
I think the main message is just we need to improve our tourism programs, because unfortunately we are still working on the same basis, the old basis. We need to improve this basis, and we need to improve more about our tourism programs, and also to encourage the companies to make new marketing campaigns in the local markets and in the other foreign countries. We need to do this in the African market as well. We ignored the African market for a long time. We need to pay some attention for, I think Africa is our in-part court, so we need to improve our tourism with some African countries. I don't want to mention any country in a specific, but I'm just talking generally. We need to make this in some African countries, beside the other traditional markets in Europe, States, Australia, and some countries in Asia, but that will be quite important.
Indeed, Mr. Emad Hamdy, tour guide and tourism expert, thank you so much for your insight, and thank you so much for being with us on Windows, and we wish you a happy and blessed Eid holiday.
Same for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And dear viewers, by this we wrap up this episode of Windows on Nile TV International. We are talking, just a quick recap, we were talking about the relentless efforts exerted by the Egyptian government to boost the tourism industry, both locally and internationally as well. And we wish you, our dear viewers, a very happy and blessed Eid holidays, and thank you so much for watching. Signing off, this is Karim Gamaluddin, and this is goodbye.